Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me in my studies today. I read a book a week and externalize my studies to the best of my ability. And today I'll be doing vocal readings from Alan Watts' Cloud Hidden, Whereabouts Unknown, a Mountain Journal. This section of the book covers reincarnation, karma. Anyone fascinated by the subject of free will or fate, destiny, will definitely be interested in Alan Watts' descriptions of karma. Dharmadhatu, the mutual interpenetration of all things and events, all in the one and one in the all. A forecast of the dilemma that we're currently facing with technology and the middle way, the Dharma of the Buddha. Before I get to my vocal readings today, I'm going to ask you to do a contemplative playing of sorts with me to soften our brains for today's readings. What happens when we question everything? We begin to refrain from responding quickly as we recognize the conditioned quality of many of our responses. When I make note of the part of me that initiated my response to something, I can then ask myself, where did that come from? What patterning created the impetus to that specific response? Where then does the rubber meet the road between the voluntary and the involuntary? As we spend time with these questions, we are also refraining from responding quickly as we must. That refraining opens up space. That space that we so often leave in our ignorance, our avidya, undetected. It's like a womb, a magnificent, magical space in which birth can take place. And there we may see the involuntary and the voluntary aren't as different as we thought. They are as all polar opposites, polarities of the same thing, two sides of the same coin, interdependent. But let's circle back to questioning everything. Question me too. Make sure you do. Thank you for doing that playful contemplation with me today. I'll get to my vocal readings now. Enjoy. Page 62. It strikes me as utterly amazing that I did in fact come from this nothing. If I came from it once, I see no reason why I could not come from it again. For if, as is indeed the case, I did come from it once, this nothingness is, to say the least, unexplainably frisky. Page 63. Where am I to locate myself when I consider that, just as my brain sees with my eyes, the universe feels with my body? In other words, my body and all bodies come forth from this whirl of energy, as leaves come from trees and fish from the ocean, and most remarkably, stars from space. It seems obvious that the universe is a system which, by means of living bodies, becomes aware of itself up to a point. Just as there is a blank behind the eyes, and just as you can't kiss your own lips, the universe cannot know itself completely. If it could, there would be no surprises, and that would spoil the fun. Obviously, after the death of any one body, other bodies come into being, and in every case, they have just the same experience of coming out of nothing as you and I had when we were born. So, when the universe stops eyeing with my body, this body, it goes on with others. And all these others feel themselves as much myself as I do now. It is basically an intellectual block to find it incredible that you have more than one life. It is just as incredible that we have this one. it is still more incredible to suppose that what has happened once cannot happen again. The word karma means simply action or doing and does not imply that the universe involves any impersonal system of moral justice which recognizes and weighs human conventions of good and evil. Page 76. My karma is thus the action or behavior of an enduring pattern, like the crest trough formation of a wave, which is recognized in 1971 as in 1950 as Alan Watts, or better, as Alan Wattsing. But this pattern consists equally of what the pattern is said to do and of what is said to happen to it. Both constitute its behavior or motion, for I could not walk if the sun were not keeping me warm. My physical shape is as much produced by the expansive strength of my bones and muscles as by the pressure of air around and upon them. Or in other words, the way my pattern works derives as much from heredity as from environment. So too, the pattern of a river comes equally from the gravity of the water and the lay of the land. Page 77. The new totality or self, recognized when both the voluntary and the involuntary aspects of one's karma are taken into consideration, goes far beyond anything that can be narrowly and one-sidedly defined as Alan Watts or John Doe. If I cannot be my particular self except in relation to the particular other or environment which surrounds me, then we have a situation in which every identifiable pattern in the universe implies all the others. In the Mahayana Buddhist philosophy, this is called the Dharmadhatu, the mutual interpenetration and interdependence of all things and events, one in all and all in one. Page 78. We own what we do and disown what happens, and go on to expand the area which we can own and control. Technology, as now practiced, is one of the principal means of this expansion. But we are just beginning to see that this extension of the voluntary is also extension of the involuntary, because our behavior is increasingly controlled by the nature and structure of our machinery. Our food, clothing, housing, traveling, and general behavior must increasingly be dictated by mechanical efficiency to the point already passed where we cannot live without it. Overstressing the voluntary aspect of karma is ignorance, avidya, of the other, which is in turn that craving or grasping, trishna, of control, described by the Buddha as the root of suffering. His dharma, or method of life, was instead the middle way of compassion, that is, a feeling for both sides, of allowing, respecting, and owning the apparently random and involuntary aspect of our karma. This means increasing tolerance for surprising and unscheduled events, for life forms and lifestyles other than our own, and for all things sinuous, slippery, wayward, and wiggly as distinct from straight, square, boxed, and classified in defiance of the curvaceous forms of the natural world.